Madam Presiding Officer, as you rightly said, today is the 24th of January, a day that has been designated as International Day of Education by the United Nations just last month, December 2018. So it is fitting that we are discussing creating a Tobago-specific product that marries both tertiary education and tourism, which we believe would assist in diversifying the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. We also think that it will provide the needed foreign exchange. It will assist in the research and development that's needed for this island, and it will enhance our tourism product. Madam Presiding Officer, let me be clear. What we are proposing is a University of Tobago, developed in Tobago, that focuses on Tobago-specific developmental issues as part of its work, but aimed at attracting both local and foreign students to fill its classrooms. We envision having community-specific campuses spread throughout the island and not just a single concentrated campus in one area. We envision building on what is already established in Tobago by partnering with internationally recognized tertiary institutions to ensure that we do not start from scratch, but to ensure that we utilize international expertise to assist in that development. As written in the motion, we envision that the University of Tobago having at least 4 faculties, namely the Faculty of Food Production, Marine and Environmental Studies, the Faculty of Innovation and Business Development, Faculty of the Arts, Culture and Tourism, and the Faculty of Public, Applied and Alternative Health. Madam Presiding Officer, I will use this time to discuss in details each of the tenets of the motion, while the wrap-up session will be used to answer any lingering questions that may have been raised by the members of the Executive Council who would speak. It is my sincere hope, Madam Presiding Officer, that the members of the Executive Council seize the merit of this motion and acts in the best interest of the people that they represent. May I also encourage the members opposite to use this time to really engage in meaningful debate about the substance of the motion. Please resist the urge through you, Madam Presiding Officer, to descend into personal attacks or commentary that is not relating to the issue at hand. This is 2019, and we should all resolve to be better stewards of the responsibility bestowed upon us by the public. Madam Presiding Officer, allow me to quickly add that after Dr. Winston Murray's death in January 2017, we, as in the Tobago House of Assembly, promised to memorialize him in a way that was fitting to his contributions to Tobago. We believe that the development of the University of Pittsburgh, University of Tobago, please forgive me, a name that he registered and fought to develop, would be the most fitting monument celebrating his life.
Now, I know that the Minority Councillor, Madam Presiding Officer, in the lead up to this debate has been purporting how excited that she is, this being her first motion, and the fact that the PDP, whilst campaigning, understood that when we are speaking about tourism, we are speaking about more than sun, sea, and sand. And in order to force more persons to come to the destination, they are now proposing that a University of Tobago be established to diversify the economy. And the decision by us on this side to amend the motion, Madam Presiding Officer, is due to the fact that this notion of a University of Tobago is nothing new. As a matter of fact, I listened to a television interview with the Minority Councillor, and the posture that was adopted is that this is a PDP idea, and if the Executive Council doesn't agree, then we need to vote them out in the next election. Additionally, the Minority Councillor emphasized that we shouldn't allow parties and politics to determine how we vote on this motion or whether we support this motion or not this afternoon. But she came and all her discussions prior have been painting this notion with a PDP political backdrop. But the truth is, Madam Presiding Officer, significant discussions were held, a position paper was presented, recommendations were accepted for the establishment of a University of Tobago, and there was not one mention of the hard work that was done prior by the minority councillor in her entire contribution. And I expected that given that the minority councillor is an acclaimed scholarly researcher, that she would have done her extensive research and familiarized herself with all the content that was presented before coming to this house. University of Tobago, Madam Presiding Officer, is nothing new, and the name is the same. So I wish to place on record, Madam Presiding Officer, the idea of a University of Tobago does not belong to the PDP as is being suggested. A significant amount of work has already commenced to establish this university, and discussions are continuing, and my colleagues following would speak to such. And just for the information of the minority councillor, following an executive council decision of the previous executive council, we had a team of experts in tertiary education that was commissioned to explore the concept of this whole idea of the University of Tobago. And the fact that discussions are ongoing, again, is one of the reasons why we are proposing that this motion, as presented initially by the minority councillor, be amended. And I want the minority councillor to understand that the team that was commissioned to determine the feasibility of a University of Tobago, they were selected primarily for their knowledge, for their expertise in the establishment and restructuring and functioning of major institutions around the world.
Madam Presiding Officer, permit me to mention that it was Judy O'Rourke et al. In 2010, in an article in the Health Education Research Journal, mentioned, and the topic they discussed, the research then, was integrating health and sustainability, higher education sector as a timely catalyst. They noted that higher education is an influential sector with enormous potential. This potential is such that it impacts positively on health and sustainability. Indeed, Madam Presiding Officer, this sector and its roles can be and are being harnessed to focus on mobilizing knowledge exchange, research such that it can achieve significant impacts. Madam Presiding Officer, universities impact positively on our integrated health agenda. As an executive, we understand that. Hence the investment that has been made and continues to be made. So we are on the move. As a sector, and notwithstanding our challenges with non-communicable diseases, emerging and re-emerging diseases, rapid change in healthcare technologies, and limited resources in healthcare delivery, several actions became necessary such that we strengthen the supporting infrastructure. Madam Presiding Officer, to the extent that we must promote health and prevent diseases, and to the extent that we must provide a supporting environment for healthy lifestyles and modify unhealthy eating habits, we must pursue educating our people. Persons skilled in doing so must be trained. So by way of example, and that was mentioned before about the role of the hotel school and its collaboration with the University of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, my colleagues and the minority, we are already building out the framework. We are building a framework and building out the university about which you speak. There are several sites available for providing tertiary education. Madam Presiding Officer, a recent World Bank study titled Globalization, Stabilization, Growth and Poverty, Building an Inclusive World Economy by David Dollar and Paul Collier noted, there's growing evidence that universities, through their role in empowering domestic constitutions and building institutions, they nurture favorable frameworks and governance structures. And these frameworks and structures are vital to a country or island's development. They're vital as we seek to increase our social capital and promote social cohesion. Indeed, Madam Presiding Officer, these are important determinants of economic growth and development. And so these are important as we focus on the growth and development of Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, an educated people is vital for today's world with the impact of globalization, the importance of knowledge, the ICT revolution. This is even more urgent. On assuming office, Madam Presiding Officer, this executive, under the leadership of the Honorable Kelvin Charles, proceeded with determination on the matter of education and training. And there is evidence of that, and that was given previously. Madam Presiding Officer, more particularly, one would notice the focus that has been placed on the education of our people, and much has been achieved in 2 short years. And that too will be discussed later by my other colleagues. Many programs are in collaboration with reputable established universities already. As we develop our island, there's a demand for other and highly skilled professionals. And this notion is not new, as was said. We support the University of Tobago.
Given the direction in which this debate has gone, I should be able to safely say that this debate will be a quick and an easy one. Because notwithstanding the grand charging and the attempt, the shameless attempt at self-praise, we all agree on the foundational principle, more so the philosophical underpinnings of this motion, which is that there should, at some time, as soon as possible, be a University of Tobago that will encapsulate what we already have existing, build upon it, invite international partners, and also position Tobago in a better place. I note, Madam Presiding Officer, that those opposite have been speaking to the fact that there was a committee set up to investigate this issue. Madam Presiding Officer, I heard about this committee prior to coming to this house. I tried to find out when exactly did this committee meet. One person who claimed to be on the committee said somewhere around 2011, 2012, thereabout. I tried to get my hands on the recommendation and the report. I have not received that. And so there is absolutely no way for us on this side to verify that in truth and in fact, the current Executive Council is carrying out those recommendations made by those committee members. Albeit, it's interesting that after having this committee being set up before the 2013 THA cycle, after all this time, we have not been much further along in this trajectory towards tertiary education for Tobago. I acknowledge and affirm, Madam Presiding Officer, that some of what we have heard is what we have discussed as we caucused. In fact, the motion, as explained by Councillor Dr. B. Israel, paid specific attention to the fact that we have existing institutions and frameworks on the island that we can build upon and that we can draw upon. And that's why she made mention of THTI, and she made mention of the Information Center, and how we could use what we already have existing to build upon it. So this motion is in no way attempting to suggest that nothing has been done with regards to tertiary education on the island. What this motion is saying, that if it is the wish of this Executive Council to implement those recommendations made so long ago, then this Executive Council needs to move post-haste. And so, even if we are amending the motion as proposed by Councillor Devines, perhaps we need to still inject the word post-haste in there, given how tardy we have been in rolling out the recommendations, whatever they may be, as proposed by that committee. Much of the merits of University of Tobago has been expounded upon. In fact, in my research in about 2009, well, actually in 2009, Madam Presiding Officer, Finland, they launched a project at building an education cluster, an education for export cluster in 2009. The then Minister of Education launched this program with the intention of using education as an export commodity. But you know what is interesting is that although Finland was launching this in 2009, they were late. They were late on the draw when compared to New Zealand, Australia, the United Kingdom, and of course, the United States. If we look at New Zealand and look at their 2017 provisional economic value of export, of education export, which is according to Education New Zealand, their Ministry of Education, they valued in 2017 export for education for export at $4.4 billion. And for them, they are boasting that education is their fourth largest export sector. If we look at Australia, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, they reported $28 billion, as Dr. Faith mentioned, for 2017-2018. And not only that, Australia is saying that education export is their third largest export commodity. Now, what does this mean for a small island like Tobago? And how can this work for us? Given our physical geography, given our size, our very small size, we cannot easily get involved in very large-scale manufacturing sectors. And so our best bet must be the service sectors, of which education is proving to be a powerful one.
Executive Minute number 210 of February 2012 accepted and approved a position paper for the establishment of the University of Tobago. I have in my possession a copy of this position paper, which was proposed by the author, Mr. Alan Richards, and I would just read for you a little of what was attempted, the vision and the mission. So Mr. Richards saw the Assembly as attempting to provide citizens with the widest exposure to the world of learning and education by obtaining the broadest possible inputs from the international spectrum of educational opportunities. He continued that given the unique gifts bestowed on this island, it must seek to optimize the use of its resources to enhance its knowledge base and revenue-generating opportunities. So we see very early in the game that the premise on which this concept was realized or taken is speaking exactly to what you are suggesting at this point in time. So let's look a little bit at the vision. He visualized the University of Tobago as a world-class institute of higher education, serving the population of Tobago by providing 21st century education and generating revenue through the provision of education opportunities to the rest of the world. So even then, the vision was not a myopic one just for our local students, but looked at inviting the rest of the world to experience our unique culture. So the resulting mission sought to achieve this vision by developing a multifaceted educational institution that will satisfy the tertiary level educational units of the local population and to attract substantial participation from the rest of the world to its programs that will significantly add to the GDP of Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, I also wish to place on record that the then Chief Secretary, Honorable Orville London, was always championing the call for Tobagonian students to be educated in their own space. And I will just read an excerpt from an article, a 2005 article, Tobago News article, headlined, London, UTT campus will reverse present trend. I'm taking you on a journey, so stay with me. We're starting in 2005, and then we are going to come forward. So Mr. London was quoted as saying, and this was at the proposed site of the Buku Battery Point campus in 2005. He said these words, "The proposed UTT Buku campus is the most significant response to the challenges of providing Tobagonians with access to relevant tertiary education in Tobago." He said that Tobago cannot be isolated or insulated from the realities of the world as a global village. He urged Tobagonians to take advantage of what he called the gift that the then PP central government was presenting. Chairman of the board of UTT at that time, who is the chairman at this point in time, Professor Ken Julian, he was also present at that function. And he claimed that construction work on that project would begin within a year. But needless to say, this campus never became a reality.
Here we have on the other side, Madam Presiding Officer, a senseless argument amounting to what? Nothing. Only to culminate with statements like something of this magnitude can't be rushed. So who say rush it? If you all have begun since 2017, how far advanced have they become? They have reached nowhere. Because I'll say this now in this house, the PNM in Tobago has not advanced tertiary education. Instead, they have kept tertiary education in check. In that way, their mastermind plan, which is to leave Tobago for themselves, remain intact. Drive the educated few away from the island. When they come back, they diskill them. There are thousands of youths today who are coming back to our country, our island Tobago, and they are being diskilled. When you come back to your home, first of all, for 2 years straight, doing nothing. Then when they call you out to work, they put you in an office, give you nothing to do. By the time 4 years, you are totally diskilled. Those persons abroad who have studied and they want to make a serious impact upon the society, they are not even given the opportunity or the welcome to come back home. I say woe to the People's National Movement in Tobago, and they should support this bill in its entirety. This bill was carefully crafted, meticulously done, so as to prevent the brain drain, so as to prevent the wastage that's taking place in Tobago via the PNM. That's what they do. Madam Presiding Officer, allow me to say this now. In 1704, someone in Tobago would have moved a motion to create a university. Then the colonial government shut it down. In 1957, A.P.T. James, the man who stood for Tobago and spoke about internal self-government, something my colleagues on the next side know nothing about. All they know about is slavery and worship of their leaders. That APT James, who has been beheaded and placed in the square. I don't know why they don't fix that. APT James spoke about a university for Tobago, but then again, it was shut down by the colonial masters. In 1997, we had the late, great Dr. Winston Murray being forced to come back and recognizing the level of academic training, tertiary academic training, that our people are exposed to on this Tobago Island, decided to open as a first draft a Tobago Community College. He did that. He first began, thank God, to the Seventh-day Adventists in Rockville at his school year with 12 pupils. He wanted to create a Tobago University. Some 20 years later, the PNM Tobago leader was then Chief Secretary, Mr. Orville London. Someone said in 2017, he did something great for University of Tobago. I don't know what happened, but as I look around, I see no university around Tobago at all. I don't know what great. They are great in talk. What we are setting out to do here today is to create something that is local, create something that feeds into the natural talent and natural prerogative of the people of Tobago, so to speak.
You know, two words come to mind, and one of them is disingenuous. The next one, I consistently, I know I said one word, but it is a sort of intellectual dishonesty, two words, but the second one I don't want to say dishonest, because again we are seeing a common thread by the members opposite. And in advancing a motion talking about the establishment of the University of Tobago post haste, and without referencing all the hard work and solid foundational work established by this administration, by this PNM administration over the years. But you know, Madam Presiding Officer, before I get in to this, to the motion and to responding, let me start off a celebratory mood, and start by wishing you and my colleagues and members opposite and all the members of this honorable house a happy new year and also happy anniversary, because and I trust that we all had a wonderful holiday. I was hoping that we would be back here to pick up the pace, to start to deliberate on the people's mandate and execute our mandate as servants of the people. But even as we are celebrating, we're in anniversary mode and we're celebrating and saying thanks. On the 30th or 31st, no man and date, it will be my mother's birthday. And I remember saying by my mother, and she always said to me, don't play with people's emotions. Be honest, be forthright, be upfront. So, Madam Presiding Officer, while on the face of the motion, persons might say, well, this has merit. Tobago, why this is happening? And the way the motion was ramped up on social media and hyped up on the media as if nothing related to the execution of a University of Tobago was happening and was being advanced by this administration. And the opening request by the member opposite was to support this motion on the face. But a simple, honest, and objective research would have indicated and appreciated the work of the Assembly thus far. But what the member did, the member jumped to Vision 2030 and claimed that, you don't have any reference point by this administration, which again, I would say disingenuous. Because, Madam Presiding Officer, if you're starting a research, and the elements would be primary and secondary data, but you'd also want to look to see if historically if anything would have been done. And a good place to start would have been right here in these hallowed halls around the horseshoe. Because, Madam Presiding Officer, I hold in my hand copies of records coming off the Hansard. Copies I retrieved from the library of this Honorable House. Motions debated on the establishment of a University of Tobago. And again, another motion talking about advancing the work. So again, I would want to refer members opposite to right here in the House and as in terms of reviewing the work of the Assembly.